The first thing I heard wasn't the wind or the lake, it was laughter. Loud, careless laughter echoing from inside my lake house. My house. I froze on the porch. Grocery bags, still in hand as someone turned up the music. Through the window, I saw faces, strangers dancing under my lights, and right in the center stood my brother's wife, drink in hand, smirking like she owned the place. When she spotted me, her smile twisted. "Why is this stupid Leech here? Get out!" she yelled. I didn't argue. I just smiled, said, "Okay." But what happened after that, she never saw coming. My name's Anna Monroe. I'm 36, a dentist in Denver, and for the last 10 years I've worked myself numb, keeping other people's smiles perfect while forgetting what peace feels like. My coworkers joke that I'm the backup generator. I keep things running when everything else shuts down. When my boss's wife got sick 2 months ago, I took over his entire schedule. I handled patients all day and spreadsheets all night until my back screamed and my eyes blurred. By Friday, I was running on caffeine and stubbornness, dreaming of one thing, my lake house in Evergreen. That cabin isn't big or fancy, but it's mine. I bought it 3 years ago, the first thing I ever owned outright. It smells like cedar and old coffee. Mornings there are cold and blue. You can see mist sliding over the lake. It's the only place I can hear my thoughts without someone asking for something. That someone is usually my family. My parents live an hour away, retired, cheerful, and perpetually worried about my brother, Liam. He's 31, charming, inconsistent, and forever between jobs. When he got married 2 years ago, Mom called me crying, saying he didn't have enough money to give his new wife, Vanessa, the wedding she deserved. "She's a lovely girl, Anna. She wants things nice," Mom had said. So I wrote a check for $18,000. No one even blinked. After that, it never stopped. Liam's rent when his job fell through, Vanessa's car payments because she couldn't drive something that old, even groceries once when they wanted to host Thanksgiving but didn't have the budget. I kept saying yes because that's what good sisters do. Or so I told myself. Vanessa was beautiful in the glossy way of someone who believes beauty is currency. Long lashes, perfect manicure, that polished laugh that feels rehearsed. From the first dinner after their honeymoon, she treated me like staff smiling when she needed something, rolling her eyes when she didn't. "You work too much, Anna," she'd say, sipping wine at my table. "You should try having a life instead of fixing teeth." I'd smile back, pretending it didn't sting. The worst part wasn't her words, it was my parents' silence. They'd look at their plates, pretending not to hear. If I ever mentioned how Vanessa talked to me, Mom would sigh. "She's young, honey. Don't take it to heart, be patient with her." Dad would nod. "You know your brother's fragile, try not to make waves." So I learned to swallow it all, to play the calm, capable one, the reliable one, the invisible one. But in the last few months, the exhaustion had sharpened into something else. I started noticing how often my phone buzzed only when someone needed money, how every favor I gave was followed by another, how the only time my name came up at family dinners was when a bill needed paying. That's why that Friday mattered so much. It was supposed to be mine, my weekend. No calls, no emergencies, no one's problems but my own. I left work late, picked up pasta, wine, and chocolate from the grocery store, humming to the radio like it was a victory song. The drive to Evergreen felt like escaping gravity. I remember thinking, if I can just get to the lake, everything will feel normal again. I didn't know that by the time I parked outside my cabin, normal would be gone. When people talk about favoritism in families, they always make it sound small, like an eye roll at dinner or a forgotten birthday. But it's bigger than that. It's the quiet way your parents' tone softens when they speak to one child and hardens when they turn to you. It's the way your success becomes invisible and someone else's mediocrity becomes potential. For me, that's how it's always been with Liam. I bought my own house. "Well, you never had kids, Anna. You can afford it. He missed 3 months of rent. He's trying, sweetie. I work 10-hour days. Don't overdo it. You'll make us worry. He slept till noon. He needs rest. He's under pressure." At first, I thought maybe I was imagining it, but the pattern repeated so many times, it became the rhythm of our family. Last Thanksgiving, when I brought a pumpkin pie, Vanessa announced she'd made a real one from scratch. Everyone praised her for hours. When I mentioned the wine I'd brought, Mom smiled politely and changed the subject. I remember standing there holding my own contribution, like it didn't exist. Still, I told myself that's family, you love them anyway. You forgive things they don't even realize they're doing. Then Liam started calling every month. Hey sis, rent's late again, can you help? I'd transfer the money and promise myself it would be the last time. It never was. Vanessa didn't work, said she was manifesting her next opportunity. I tried to give her credit for confidence, but it wasn't confidence, it was entitlement. The lake house was supposed to be the line I drew for myself, the one thing untouched by obligation. I'd even given my parents a set of keys, told them to use it whenever they needed a quiet weekend. When Liam asked for one too, I hesitated, but Mom said, it's his sister's house, not a stranger's. He won't break anything. I handed him a spare key. Maybe that was my first mistake, thinking family meant access. It started small, a missing bottle of wine, a throw blanket that vanished muddy footprints on the porch when I hadn't been there. I told myself I was imagining things, until one weekend in August I arrived to find a damp towel in the bathroom and 2 toothbrushes in the cup by the sink. I texted Liam. Were you at the house this week? He replied, yeah, just for a night. Hope that's okay. It wasn't, but I said it was. And that's the problem with people like me, we say okay. When it's not hoping, silence keeps the peace. So when I pulled up that October evening, saw those strange cars outside, and heard music pounding through my windows, I already knew. I just didn't want to believe it. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My pulse climbed. I'd given everything to keep this family together, and somehow I was the outsider, the one intruding. I stepped out of the car, cold air biting at my face, and whispered to myself, not this time. The front door was unlocked. That alone made my stomach twist. I pushed it open and a wave of noise hit me. Music chatter, the crackle of laughter bouncing off the walls I painted myself. The smell of cheap perfume and beer hung heavy in the air. My lake house looked like a rental after spring break. 10 people were inside Vanessa's parents on the couch, a few cousins I'd never met. Someone stirring a pot in my kitchen. My kitchen. And in the middle of it all stood Vanessa, a glass of rosé in one hand, my linen shirt hanging off her shoulder like a trophy. When she saw me, her expression froze, then melted into a smirk. Well, look who showed up, she said, voice syrupy with wine. I looked around, waiting for Liam. He was there by the window, holding a beer, eyes glued to the floor. Not one person moved to greet me. I didn't know anyone was here, I said quietly. This is my weekend. Vanessa tilted her head. We have a key, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. We just thought we'd use the place for a little family getaway. You don't mind, do you? Something about the way she said we made my skin crawl. I set my grocery bag on the counter. I do, actually. You're all leaving tonight. This isn't a rental. A hush spread through the room. Someone turned down the music. Vanessa blinked, then laughed, a high, brittle sound that sliced the silence. Are you serious? We just got here. I felt everyone's eyes on me like I was the intruder. Vanessa's voice rose sharper now. You always have to ruin things, don't you? God. Liam, your sister is impossible. He said nothing. That's when she turned to her family, waving her drink like a conductor. Why is this stupid Leech here? Get out! For a second, I couldn't breathe. My ears rang. The word Leech echoed through me like something physical, a slap I couldn't block. I looked at her, her perfect hair, her glossy smile, and saw what she really meant. I was never family. I was a wallet with a heartbeat. The room waited for me to explode. I didn't. Instead, I smiled. It wasn't forced or shaky. It was calm, too calm. I picked up my car keys from the counter, met her gaze, and said, okay. Her grin widened victorious. Good, I'll leave. I finished voice steady. I walked past her, past my brother who still couldn't look at me, past the couch where her parents pretended to check their phones. Each step felt lighter than the last. Outside, the cold hit me full in the face. My hands shook as I unlocked my car, but not from sadness, not even rage, just clarity. As I backed down the drive, the house glowed behind me, full of noise and people who'd mistaken kindness for weakness. By the time I reached the highway, the music was gone, replaced by the hum of tires and the faint buzz in my chest that felt like awakening. At home, I unpacked the groceries, wine, pasta, chocolate, set them on the counter, and stared at them for a long time. Then I made tea, sat down, and opened my banking app. Line after line, rent payments, car payments, transfers, gifts. More than $50,000 over 2 years. The next sip of tea was bitter, but it steadied me. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I just made a decision. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. The city outside my window was still gray and quiet, but something inside me had shifted, like a switch flipped overnight. I wasn't the exhausted, accommodating sister anymore. I was done. By 7, I was standing in line at the bank, coffee cooling in my hand. When it was my turn, I smiled at the teller. I'd like to remove someone from my emergency account. My voice was steady, almost cheerful. She typed, confirmed my name, and asked, "Who would you like to remove my brother Liam Monroe?" Click. 5 minutes later, he no longer had access to my money. From there, it was simple. I went home, logged into my accounts, and canceled every automatic payment linked to Liam or Vanessa. Their rent, their car loan, even the extra card I'd forgotten existed. Each click felt cleaner than the last, like cutting threads I hadn't realized were choking me. When I was done, I sat back in silence. No guilt, no shaking hands, just a quiet kind of peace. The following Friday, my phone rang. I let it buzz twice before answering. Anna. What the hell happened? Liam's voice cracked through the speaker. The landlord said the rent didn't go through. It didn't, I said. Why not? Because I stopped paying it. Silence. I could hear him breathing, waiting for me to laugh and say I was joking. I didn't. I also canceled your access to my emergency account, I added. And the car payments. Vanessa's right. He swore under his breath. You can't just... I interrupted. And I did. You should thank your wife for this. The line went dead. 10 seconds later, Vanessa's name flashed across my screen. I ignored it. She called again, then again. After the 5th call, the texts began paragraphs of venom, one after another. You're selfish. You're bitter. You're pathetic. You think you're better than everyone because you have money. I scrolled through them, one eyebrow raised. The last message stopped me. Family doesn't abandon family. I typed one line back. You did that when you told me to get out of my own house. Then I blocked her. The quiet that followed was glorious. A week later, my mom called. Honey, what's going on? Liam's very upset. He said you're cutting him off. Can't you just let it go? Vanessa was drunk. You know how she is. She wasn't just drunk, I said. She was honest. Please, Mom whispered. Let's not make this a war. I'm not making it anything, I replied. I'm ending it. For the first time in years, I hung up on her. That weekend, I drove back to Evergreen. The air was cold and sharp, the lake frozen around the edges. A locksmith met me in the driveway. While he changed the locks, I stood by the water, watching the faint sunlight scatter across the ice. When he handed me the new keys, I turned one over in my palm. It was lighter than I expected. No one else would ever use this place again. Not my parents, not Liam, and definitely not Vanessa. That night, I lit a fire in the fireplace and sat in my chair, the one by the window overlooking the dock. For the first time, the silence wasn't lonely. It was earned. By the following week, the calls stopped, but I knew the fallout had begun. I heard from a neighbor that Liam and Vanessa had been evicted. A small part of me wanted to feel sorry for them. I didn't, because revenge doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it's just the sound of doors locking quiet final, and yours. 2 weeks passed before the first crack in their perfect image appeared. My mother called voice tight, whispering like she was confessing a sin. They've been evicted, she said. Your brother and Vanessa. The landlord kicked them out. I stirred my coffee slowly. I see. They're staying with us for now, she added. It's just temporary. Of course, I said. Though I knew temporary in my family usually meant indefinitely. By the next week, the updates started coming whether I asked for them or not. Mom sounded more and more tired each time. She doesn't help around the house, complains about the food, won't even do her own laundry. I said nothing. She made your father move the furniture yesterday, Mom continued, voice shaking with exhaustion. He hurt his back again. And when I asked her to stop, she told me I should be grateful to have her there. I exhaled into the phone. You chose to open the door, Mom. Now you're living with what you let in. Anna, please don't be cruel. I'm not, I said quietly. Just honest. The calls slowed after that. 4 months went by. Work was steady, calm. My patients smiled again. I did too. I'd saved more money in that short time than I had in the last 2 years. My weekends belonged to me. Sometimes I'd drive to the lake house, sit by the water with a book and a blanket, listening to the birds and the wind. The same house that once felt tainted by their noise now breathed again. Then one chilly afternoon, my parents asked to meet for coffee. I walked into the cafe expecting another guilt trip. Instead, they both looked older, smaller somehow. Liam and Vanessa are getting divorced, Mom said flatly. She's been awful to him, said things you wouldn't believe. Dad nodded. She called him useless, wrote online that she wasted her life on him. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I dreamed of this kind of justice, but standing in front of it, it didn't feel triumphant. It felt heavy, inevitable. I'm sorry, I said softly. For him. Mom looked at me with wet eyes. You were right, Anna, about everything. We should have listened. I didn't gloat. I didn't have to. Weeks later, I heard the rest through her updates. The divorce finalized. Vanessa moved back with her parents. Liam found a new job, one that finally paid well. It turned out that once he lost his cushion, he learned to swim. When he called me for the first time since it all happened, his voice was hesitant. I just wanted to say thanks, he said, for stopping what you were doing. I didn't get it before, but I do now. I felt my throat tighten. I'm glad, Liam. I'm sorry, he added, for not standing up for you that night, for all of it. I smiled, tears stinging, but not falling. We're okay. And we were. Slowly, the fractures in our family began to mend, not perfectly, but honestly. The lake thawed with spring. The trees budded again, soft green against the blue water. One Sunday, I invited my parents and Liam to dinner. No outsiders this time. We ate, laughed awkwardly, and when they left, my mom hugged me longer than she had in years. Later, I stood on the porch watching the sun dip below the lake. For the first time, I didn't see loss in what had happened. I saw balance. The noise was gone, replaced by stillness, and I realized I finally had peace. Spring melted fully into summer, and the lake turned to glass again. The air smelled of pine and new beginnings. I drove up to the cabin one evening after work, no traffic, no phone calls waiting, just the sound of gravel under my tires. Inside, everything was clean and quiet. The same couch where strangers once sat was now covered with a soft blanket and a half-read novel. I lit a single candle on the counter and opened the windows. The air moved through the house like forgiveness. I walked down to the dock with a glass of wine, the same spot where months ago I'd stood trembling with anger. The water reflected the sky, pink fading to gold, and I thought about how strange peace feels when you've lived too long in chaos. Liam was doing well now. My parents had stopped apologizing in words and started showing it in actions. Sunday dinners, gentle questions, no more guilt. Even Vanessa had disappeared from our story, her name no longer sharp in my mind. For a long time, I believed silence meant weakness, that letting people walk away or walking away myself was surrender. But I've learned silence can also be strength. It can be the sound of boundaries locking into place. The house they once invaded isn't a reminder of humiliation anymore. It's proof that I took my life back without screaming, without revenge, headlines, just quiet decisions one after another until everything cruel collapsed on its own. I watched the first stars flicker over the water and smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is peace. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you love to protect your peace? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story.